In the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Ready if you would.
Mary Jo Rothmanaski, Mary Jo Radcliffe, Tom Epps.
Here.
Jeanette Simonson.
Here.
Nick Helsted.
Here.
Iftikhar Memon.
Yes.
Brad Dobbs.
Yes. All right, and has this meeting been publicly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. All right. I move to move items 6.1 and 7.5, that is focus on purpose, our K-12 art teams here, and adaptive sports league, to the next item on the agenda. I'll second that. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we'll go right into focus on purpose K-12 art.
We do ask that you use the microphone. It doesn't amplify in here, but it helps the recording pick up a lot better.
Come with gifts. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Jen. I love the dinosaurs.
Thanks.
Like that is
So
I
do the
teach
high
kindergarten
school kids.
dress.
The high school kids love it too.
After Jen passes out her free gifts, she's going to be passing out a creativity challenge to or test to all of you. A challenge, not a test, that you could work on while I'm speaking. The idea is that there are different lines on the paper and you are to try and make them into what you think they could be. If it's an extra challenge for you, you connect them all together into one. Is there a way for me to flip the slides, or?
I can. You can just let me know.
Okay, go ahead. So Jen, you want to introduce yourself?
Now do it when it's my turn.
Okay, I'm Julie Jeske. I'm recently the middle school art teacher. I was at Red Creek last year. This is my 25th year of teaching and my second year here. And we have with us Amanda Johnson. She has taken the long-term sub position at the elementary school, doing an amazing job. So that's next year. So we're here to talk to you tonight about how the arts are important, because oftentimes they're put on the, we're just the frivolous, like kids are having a good time, and we can talk about the emotional benefits of being in an art class, but we're here to tell you a little bit more about how it's important to, that grade that we get, sometimes from the state, so how we can contribute to that. So what we're here to talk about are the 21st century skills that we are helping to develop in the students here at Black River Falls, and we're going to focus on just a few. So creativity being the first one, which you're practicing right now, I hope. And then collaboration and social skills, which happen kind of naturally in the art room. Self-direction, kids persevering through, making mistakes, trying again. That growth mindset, it's maybe not easy, but still putting in the effort. And work ethic, of course. And then literacy, which is one of my passions, I guess, is visual literacy, which I'm going to mention. And I talked a little bit about that last year. I'm going to just hit on that again. And then the social responsibility and the global awareness that art brings to our students. So creativity is intelligence, having fun. I hope you guys are working on your creativity challenge and enjoying that. So the importance is, can you flip to the next one too? So creative skills are super important, and I'm going to give you a really brief overview of why we believe of this. We have a lot of stuff nowadays, tons and tons of stuff. We have so much things that we buy, storage units, that our garages are full, that we have just so many things. And it's gotten to the point where when we go to Target to get a regular old toilet brush, rather than just getting a regular old toilet brush, we're buying a toilet brush that was designed by an interior designer named Michael Graves. We want something unique and interesting. That's the way our lives work. And then the other part of it is that we are now being introduced with a lot of AI and computer-generated images and things. And what's going to set us apart from that is being able to think creatively, to be able to think outside the box because, yeah, AI can do a lot of things that an artist could do, or that a writer could do, or that any other art person could do. And yet there's still some bit of creativity that has to happen, and the knowledge of correctness. I don't know if you've ever seen some AI images, but sometimes they're a little bit weird. There's also a direct connection between, and this isn't the best example or visual that I could find, but the whole creative process is very similar to that of the scientific method, where you're coming up, you're posed a problem, you find out what the requirements are, what you need to do to fix or to solve that, and then you go through all the solutions, and then you build or create. Very similar to a scientific method where you're solving problems. So. And then visual literacy, we talk about visual text or visual images as text, and that you need evidence to support your claim. You may not realize why something makes you feel a certain way until you break it down into its smaller parts, and so we call it analysis. In written text, we look at the language and grammar uses, but in visual text, we look at the elements and principles of art. So kids are looking and analyzing and informing an interpretation by what they see. So I am so excited that right now I have a target time at the middle school where we are just focusing on visual literacy. And I included a very short example of a commercial that I wanted to share with you, because I tell the kids that you are every day bombarded with visual images. Like even right now, I'm reading the room, I'm looking at body language, I'm looking at all the things around me. And so this example here shows you how you are, without even actually seeing a logo, you know things about this. So if you wouldn't mind playing it, you don't even have to have the sound on, because I think you'll know exactly what it is immediately.
Is a paid message for a chip so iconic we don't need to name it, cause this is an ad with no logos, no jingles, no gimmicks, just those red and blue bags with the stuff you love in it. 3 sides to this story. It's the corner store crunch that had you trade your buddies for it if they packed a pack at lunch. No logo, but our name stays on the tip of your tongue when you're shaking for crumbs once that bag is done. Man, you know the brand. Felt the dust, asked for one, doubled up, hit the shelf and called dibs on that last bit. This is that sweet, cheesy.
You don't want to, but anyway, you get the idea. So we travel down the road every day, we see logos, we see visual images that speak to us. We don't necessarily even know how and why they are, but yeah. So that's my part of why our art is important.
Hey everybody, I'm Jen Dahl. I teach at the high school now. I spent 5 years at elementary level, and I went to high school, and I'm super excited to be at the high school. And I'm going to talk about our cross-curricular connections today. So if you want to check us out and all of our students' work and what we're up to, there's these Facebook accounts that we have for each of our schools. And I try, Julie is better at it, but I try to keep updated as much as I can. Next slide. So I'm talking to you about the cross connections that we have at school. Amanda's and my kids made hundreds of Valentines for veterans that were taken to the Veterans Hospital in Toma. You probably recognize the heart that's in the middle from our Heart Spirits program about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Right next to that is a picture of an animal at the animal shelter. We are currently doing a big program with the animal shelter about adoptable pets, and we are transferring that information. Students from animal science are making posters about the animals. My students in printmaking and painting, and Julie's kids in painting did each animal, and we wanted to go adopt them all. My kids at the bottom, we made 1,700 poppies, and Nick's company made the posts for us to put our poppies on. We have monthly displays at the post office. Our art is really out there. We are making those connections that it's hard to make with other things, but we are always trying to make those connections. And I think that is it. Oh, so if we have a dream, there's Bree. We would love to access more technology for our future artists and designers. Digital art classes at the middle school and the high school would be our dreams. And add a second elementary art teacher so that it's not such a weighted job.
Those kids only get art 29 times a year. And so Amanda's job is to make them love it, but I really believe that there could be a whole lot more happening at the elementary level. There's 2 FIAD music teachers, just saying.
Do you have any questions?
I do-
Tesco.
Julie, you mentioned AI. I'm curious, are you doing anything with AI? I know it's a huge topic in education right now.
So that's where you go to that access to technology. Right now, we don't really have, I have some iPads in my classroom that we upload to Artsonia, so the kids have an online portfolio, but I really don't, and she doesn't either really have access to be able to teach those kids that maybe want to go off and do things with, so no, we aren't, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know everyone's, basically the consensus at this point is we can fight it, right? We tried to fight the internet too for a while, right? And we can either leverage it or just become irrelevant.
Well, and I know for myself, we talk about copyrights and things like that and building on. So you take an original idea and then make it your own. It's there, there's a whole, there's a line there.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You're welcome to our classrooms anytime. Just pop on in.
I don't know what specific technology you have in mind, but remember the EEF grant people have been heavily soliciting grant applications this year. So that's they make it super, super, super easy to apply. So.
Beautiful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
And then next, Jacob Schaefer is here to talk about the adaptive sports league.
Jessica.
Oh, okay. And Jessica.
Ah, thank you.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even get to look at it.
That's the last slide.
Right.
Good job, Nick.
I might take a picture of mine and send it to you.
Hello, I am Jacob Schaefer. I'm the adapted PE teacher in the school district of Black River Falls. Here with me is Jessica Bell, special ed teacher for the middle school, one of the special ed teachers. First and foremost, as a definition, adapted sport leagues is an opportunity for students with disabilities. It's a school-sponsored and extracurricular activity for students with disabilities to compete against peers from other schools in the region or state. It's a program that allows students to compete at a level that is appropriate to their motor development or cognitive ability. Similarly, why it matters, physical fitness is especially important for students with disabilities as they may not get the same opportunities that students without disabilities have. If they live a sedentary lifestyle, they will not get to have the same opportunities outside of school. As well, students will be less social with their friends, have less opportunities to make friends with their typically developing peers or with their similar ability peers. It's just good for students to be active outside of school for their overall well-being and mental health. And proper programming is especially important and is missing in there. Similarly, this ties in very well. Schools must have extracurricular opportunity for students with disabilities as outlined by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is IDEA. Physical education is mentioned in IDEA as well as extracurricular opportunities, which in this case, adapted sports league is. In 2013, there was a Dear Colleague letter from the U.S. Department of Education. I have a full copy of the letter with me. I will not read it in its entirety, but I do have a couple of excerpts I would like to read. Dear colleague, extracurricular athletics, which include club, intramural, or interscholastic, e.g. freshman and junior varsity or varsity athletics at all education levels, are an important component of an overall education program. The United States Government Accountability Office, or GAO, published a report that underscored that access to and participation in extracurricular athletic opportunities provide important health and social benefits to all students, particularly those with disabilities. These benefits can include socialization, improved teamwork and leadership skills, and fitness. Unfortunately, the GAO found that students with disabilities are not being afforded an equal opportunity to participate in extracurricular athletics in public and secondary schools. To ensure that students with disabilities consistently have opportunities to participate in extracurricular athletics equal to those of other students, GAO recommended that the United States Department of Education clarify and communicate schools' responsibilities under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 regarding the provision of extracurricular athletics. The Department's Office for Civil Rights, OCR, is responsible for enforcing Section 504, which is a federal law designed to protect the rights of individuals with disabilities in program and activities, including traditional public schools and charter schools that receive federal financial assistance. The document goes on to an overview of Section 504 requirements, which I will not go over. Not acting on generalizations and stereotypes. Ensure equal opportunity for participation, which opens with a school district that offers extracurricular athletics must do so in such a manner as it is necessary to afford qualified students with disabilities an equal opportunity for participation. This means making reasonable modifications and providing those aids and services that are necessary to ensure an equal opportunity to participate, unless the school district can show that doing so would be a fundamental alteration to its program. So if you have a student with dwarfism and he needs the basketball rim to be lowered to 6 feet in order for him to play successfully, that would be a fundamental alteration of the program, as I'm 6 feet when I was a senior in high school, so that means I could reach over and dunk the ball, which would be a fundamental alteration, which would be inappropriate for that child. The document goes on to have several other examples, which I will not read. I'll read section 4, which is offering separate or different athletic opportunities. Students with disabilities who cannot participate in the school district's existing extracurricular athletic program, even with reasonable modifications or aids and services, should still have an equal opportunity to receive the benefits of extracurricular athletics. When the interests and abilities of some students with disabilities cannot be as fully and effectively met by the school district's existing extracurricular athletic program, the school district should create additional opportunities for those students with disabilities. In those circumstances, the school district should offer students with disabilities opportunities for athletic activities that are separate or different from those offered to students without disabilities. These athletic opportunities provided by school districts should be supported equally as with school districts' other athletic activities. School districts must be flexible as they develop programs that consider the unmet interests of students with disabilities. Here's a conclusion, and it is signed by Seth M. Glanter, the Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights. This is another slide talking about the benefits of ASL. In the top picture is the Holman High School Adapted Sport League team after they won their wiffle ball championship. The lower picture is the Central High School Adapted Sport League after they won their soccer championship. The members in white are the Central High School varsity soccer team because they played a varsity versus the ASL as an end of season celebration. The coaches of Adapted Sport League would be members such as myself, an adapted physical education teacher, a special ed teacher, a paraprofessional. Central High School in La Crosse has a paraprofessional as their coach. There are also aides that assist with students with more severe needs. They need a one-to-one aide on the courts or a student in a wheelchair. An opportunity for volunteerism is available for high schoolers who wish to be a mentor to a student who are maybe out of season or wish to be a referee or a scorekeeper in a game as well. The players are eligible for grades 6 through 12 for right now. When West Salem implemented their Adapted Sport League, they started off as a 6 through 12 because they did not have the level of support or the interest from the community. But after 7 years, they have implemented a 9 through 12 program and have a 6-year program to compete at the middle school level as well as the high school level. In a parent survey that I sent out about a month ago, I sent a survey out to 30 families. Those are the responses I have gotten back so far. 9 yes for soccer, 8 yes for floor hockey, 11 yes for wiffle ball. I would be able to field a full team with alternates and substitutes for all 3 sports. In a typical season, which is 8 weeks long, practices are twice a week, 60 to 90 minutes. Games are once or twice a week. In the Mississippi Valley Conference, which is the athletic conference we'll be joining, so that's Holman, Onalaska, West Salem, La Crosse Central, and La Crosse Logan. You have 1 away match and 1 home match against each school for a total of 10 matches. And then at the end of the season is a single elimination league tournament. With play, there is usually a high ability on the floor and a low ability on the floor. And in sports such as floor hockey or soccer, players cannot cross the midline, so you can have both your high ability and low ability on the floor, but they will play against equal level kids from the schools so that there's not a safety violation. So you're not having your 200-pounder against the kid in the wheelchair. The conference tournaments is a cumulative single elimination event that has a traveling trophy associated with it. The Mississippi Valley Conference focuses on all conference teams as well, based off of athletic ability and sportsmanship. This is also a highly attended event. Last year I attended the wiffle ball championship between Logan and Holman, and the crowds, it was both sides of the bleachers stocked completely. You had to be there 15 minutes early for the race. So it is well attended by members of the community. The high school seniors make signs for kids they know. It's just a feel-good, amazing opportunity. This is feedback from a high school parent in Oshkosh. You can read it for yourself, but you will find there are numerous mentions of leadership skills, community involvement, and socialization. The costs associated with implementing Adapted Sport League are approximately $7,800 for soccer, $2,900 for floor hockey, and $700 give or take for wiffle ball. The funding for the initial equipment would be covered through the out-of-school time grants that the district has for this year. Ongoing transportation costs would be covered, as we are high school athletic, so it would be reasonable to assess that it would be going into the high school athletic budget. However, given that I know that budgeting is tight, you can go to the next slide, Ms. Jill. That we will be fundraising and raising funds through the London Charitable Fund, the Black River Area Foundation. I will be pursuing educator enrichment. And we'll be doing fundraising in the fall, including Ashley at the Arts. And we'll be asking for business donations. What questions do you have?
Were any of the board members that are here tonight able to go and watch the display when Holman came? Okay.
Tom and I, Mary Jo.
Yeah, Mary Jo sent an email because she's not able to be here tonight. She was super excited about this opportunity, was disappointed to miss tonight, but she was very excited.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic to watch those kids, and looking at those numbers, you said you have enough for each sport then in the fall, winter, and spring?
Correct.
And are
That's
those
about half, I've received about half of the responses back. So, and that could just be due to unfamiliar with the program, or just unsure of what it is, I guess. I would guess it's the same thing. But as time goes on, West Salem in their first year had enough players for 1 substitute, but now they have 5 substitutes for it. And a sport like floor hockey that has 7 players on the field, so a size of 12. Holman is the largest team with 20 kids on our floor hockey team.
And I know your experiences with the lacrosse area. What about Lake Eau Claire in that direction? Are there
I have
teams
not
like that?
heard anything from Eau Claire. I reached out to lacrosse because that's where I'm from. Last week I received an email from Lacrosse Central asking if I was doing wiffle ball this spring, and if they could schedule any away matches with us. To which I informed them no, it would hopefully be starting in the fall of 24-25, and we can schedule matches once we have our school calendar.
So for the board's information, as Jacob shared, he's extremely organized about this whole proposal and that initial budget. We do have that out of school time grant, and as he would be engaging with some kids already this spring, we would be able to cover the cost of the stuff. It's the ongoing costs that become the challenges, the transportation, there's some ongoing equipment, but not much, and then paying for coaches, because as we said, depending on the students that get involved, there could need to be more adults engaged. That being said, it is, I think a program like this always needs the right people, and we've got 2 of the right people that are really excited about it, and so I feel like we can make the rest of it work out pretty easily. So.
And I know that Dr. Severson mentioned to the art department the educational enrichment fund, but they've reached out to me. They're actively encouraging applications for grants this year. So, are we looking for approval to move forward with this?
It doesn't necessarily need your approval, but if you'd like to give it, that would be great. I mean, you can take action on it. It's one of the, since we would be starting a league, we did have a Special Olympics many years ago. We were trying to remember how long it's been since we fielded a team, and not in either of our memories, so we think it's been a really, really long time. So this would take the place of any of that. Looking to create a student account fund, student activity fund at the high school, so that any fundraising goes directly for the expenses of the program. So as long as we have enough students to be able to field the teams, we would like you to support them. So.
Are there any questions?
No question.
Otherwise, I'm going to move that we do move forward with an adaptive sports league.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Now we are back in order. 5.1, gifts and grants.
Sure. This month we received a donation to the Angel Fund from Miss Linda Heller. So we'd like to acknowledge and recognize her gift. That is it, and does not need your approval, just letting you know.
And Nicole, there's still no one for, okay.
For the board's information, the public comment procedures was on the initial agenda, and then I realized that the individual board member who asked for it to be brought back on the agenda was not going to be at the meeting, so it seemed silly to put the agenda item on when she wasn't going to be here to talk through it. So that is why it was on the initial agenda and not the final agenda.
Alright, so then we are on to 5.3, the academic calendar.
Yep. So we are making a recommendation to approve, it is draft 1 in the survey. Over 70% of the staff selected this version of it. I will just let the board know or remind you, state law still says that we cannot start school before September 1, because this year's, if you look, Labor Day is actually on the 2nd. That would mean we couldn't start until the 3rd, which would be very unfortunate, just because we are one of the few schools in our region that go into that first week of June. I believe that many districts around us keep reducing the number of student contact days that they have. And so we are going until June 6th would be our end of school year. So what we are doing the 27th, 28th, and 29th is also something that is happening far and wide. Many districts have, instead of asking for a waiver from the Department of Public Instruction to start before September 1, they have called it summer school for those 3 days. And the expectation is that every student comes. So we would be able to count August 27th as one of our teacher contract days and one of our student contact days. We could not count those instructional minutes towards our totals that we need for the state because we are going to count them for summer school, and that would be double dipping, and you're not allowed to do that. So in this calendar, because of the number of days we have padding for, I think we said 8 snow days already, even without those 3 days in there. So we should knock on something that 8 is the maximum snow days that we would have, but we feel very comfortable that taking the 27th, 28th, 29th, counting them as full student days, and then starting the 3rd, the regular school year would begin. And with all the time off that is in there, we feel very confident we could weather 8 snow days without having to make any calendar adjustments. And that's, last couple of years, that's been average. But compared to this year, there's only been 1 snow day, so we're in good shape there. Again, we agreed with the calendar committee that every other year we would do a spring break. This current year that we're in, we opted for a bunch of longer weekends interspersed. The challenge is, we know that those are hard for families when they have to find daycare to cover. However, we did it with the intention of trying to reduce staff absenteeism, thinking that if they had a break coming up at the end of next week, perhaps they wouldn't need to take that day off to make an appointment this day. They could wait until they had that day off. When we opened up for feedback from staff on the calendar vote, most of the comments were, I really like the intermittent breaks. I feel like I'm not as wiped out. It's the end of February and I'm not feeling as exhausted as I did. So I think that means that next fall we should probably do a survey again and see if a week of spring break is really important to us or not, or if we would rather have those shorter breaks interspersed throughout. I don't believe that we have a ton of families that take a week's spring break. I know that we have quite a few staff members that enjoy taking a week's spring break. Staff do get personal days and they can carry over personal days from one year to the next. So if it was that important to them, they could still make that work by moving some of those personal days without it being a full week on the calendar. So we will at least explore that next fall because there was a lot of feedback from staff that they really appreciated the intermittent breaks. So with all that, we are recommending draft number 1.
So I have, I went online to see how the DPI looks at additional summer days or funding or whatever towards that. I couldn't find anything regarding student days other than online, counting online days towards summer school. So that is I'm just.
So do you want me to tell you how they count it? Or
yeah, I just would like to know, is it legit? I mean, because if I can't find it and I can't see it, I want to make sure that we're doing everything right. And then how are we sharing this with parents and families? Are we telling them that this is going to be counted 3 days toward a summer school program, or are we not going to?
So funding for summer school happens regardless of whether it happens the week right after school gets out in June or if it happens the 3 days before school starts in August. It makes no difference, or September, it makes no difference. Funding for summer school is the number of minutes students are there times the number of students that are present, and then you get a total number of instructional minutes. Then they divide that by, I want to say 48,000, but I think by 48,000, and that is how you get how many FTEs, or full-time equivalent students. And then summer school is not full-time reimbursement. We get aided.
We count 40%.
We count 40% of that FTE. So let's just make it easy on my fuzzy math. We counted 100 FTEs. We got the equivalent of 100 FTEs. We would be able to count 40 of those students as increased enrollment. So, and where did we come up with this idea? At our CISA, I would say 90% of school districts have already been doing this. Last year, we applied for a waiver from the DPI because they were still giving out COVID waivers, and we said we'd love to start earlier. I can give my rationale as to why I like to start so early. All of our fall sports start like the beginning of August, and it's just such a long, weird month without any of that instruction happening. So we would much rather get some instructional days in August as well as later. And if you start earlier, it allows for more breaks in between and still out that first week. What will we tell families? For clarity, they will get a calendar that has August 27th written as the first day of school, because we don't want them to think, oh, it's summer school, it's optional, I don't have to send my student, when all the teachers want to be able to establish their classrooms and routines and all of that stuff. I will put a narrative in there that says we are technically counting those days as summer school days, however, the first day of classes is August 27th. So the calendar sheet that goes by itself will have the 27th as the first day of school. The narrative that goes along with it will say those 3 days are counted as summer school.
Okay, that's
What you're hoping for?
I was hoping for
Okay.
it. I didn't want to hear we weren't going to.
Any other questions about the calendar?
Odd days off.
The high school would also like to survey families again and just talk about the graduation date. That is something that we surveyed probably 5 years ago, that it landed on the Friday night of Memorial Day. And as you see, when the rest of the students go until June 6th, there's quite a gap between when they graduate and the end of the school year. So we will add that information onto our survey next fall as well.
Otherwise, we're looking for approval on that. So I will move to approve the calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, scoreboard committee report. So I guess I can start talking about this. So we had a very brief committee meeting right before this meeting, and we have draft fundraising letters ready to go out. Nick is going to be working with his draftsman to update the imagery that should go with that. And Nick, you think you can get that done quite quickly, you thought?
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully we'll be ready to start raising funds, I think by the end of the month, maybe, hopefully, with a goal date of having this ready for, and I was gonna look up that date, our first home football game. I don't know if the calendar is out yet. So,
I don't know.
Sometime in August.
yeah.
I'm gonna say the second or third
I
week in
think
August.
the guy told me it was about 7-week lead time. For scoreboard. So, obviously.
So we would need
Maybe out.
prior to July 1st. Questions for the subcommittee, I guess, or Tom?
Well, we have our letter ready to go out to football alum, and I guess we're just in need of some addresses, so we'll have to, and names, and we'll just have to do the best we can to pick and choose and find out where people live and send the letters out.
The letter that was drafted even says, if you're aware of other players, please pass this on to them to see if they're interested. So we're looking for a picture. Do you want to talk a little bit about the fundraising of the signage? The idea that we came up with was the advertisers would purchase it for 10 years, and 10 years from now, that advertising would come down and a new sign would be erected. So we would be asking them to make a commitment now that would take them 10 years into the future. So.
There's
Nick, do
nothing.
you have a picture?
It's like kind of, something like that.
Very
That's
non-committal picture.
Huh?
Very non-committal picture at this point.
Yeah, it's gonna change a little bit, but it's a idea.
It's not, yeah, it gives us an idea. Looks sharp.
Yeah. It's awesome.
TCO, here Joe usually goes to that. I don't know,
Nope, I was out. I just wanted to share that the TCO hosted the candidate forum, and we received several people reached out and said how much they appreciated the fantastic audio. They said that they were not able to come, and they really appreciated how well they could hear it. And so Ben is in the back. I want to share that appreciation with him, and his partner Erin did a fantastic job making sure. There were some people that said, my wife works. I had 2 little ones. Thanks for providing this opportunity to be able to listen in from home. So just wanted to share that.
Moving on to the 6 series, we're done with 6.1, 6.2, employment recommendations. Those are new.
There aren't any that, there's one more additional retirement. Sorry, I was gonna say there's none that need your approval, but Mr. Dave Cully, our 7th grade math and ELA teacher, has decided that he will retire at the end of this year. He is also retiring from his boys varsity basketball coaching. So that will leave a very large hole. Mr. Cully has been a staple at our middle school for quite a few years and has done great work for us.
Alright, so we will need approval since there is a retirement.
I'll move to approve.
Motion
I'll
made.
second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright,
Just one note, as you're looking at Francesca Bird, attendance specialist, that position is half paid for out of our Title VI, which is the funds that the district receives in lieu of property tax for our Native American students. There's an entitlement from the federal government. So half of her position was paid for out of that, and the other half was out of ESSER funds. And so we knew that we were going to need to figure something out because the ESSER funds expire. So with her resignation, the administrative team is going to do some talking to see what possibilities might exist for fitting that into the budget in some way, or if we try to find a part-time person, all of those things. So just wanted you to know that she actually is moving to be one of the Ho-Chunk tutors. So.
alright. So we are up to the data report.
If you have the whole Excel sheet, perfect, thank you. So I gave you all this ahead of time. I don't know if you have any specific questions on it. The first page is the iReady Math. If you want to scroll over a little bit, we're at the winter testing window. There we go. You can see the top is the grade levels that are all tested, and then there is the breakdown by socioeconomic status, and then special education, and ethnicity, I believe, is last. Yeah.
Winter testing window 2024, finally we are doing much better than fall testing window. It is improving. The grades are could you please go up? Not the socioeconomic status.
Which part? That is the top of the spreadsheet.
No, the last portion, the last block.
The bottom?
Yeah,
Okay.
bottom. This guy. So this is improving comparative the fall testing. So winter is doing good little bit. So education is a very slow process. So please be patient. We will do good. We have another block totally empty. It is coming up. However, we have altogether in middle school 89 students. Out of 89, 76 students are 1, 2, 3, 4 and more grade level behind. So slightly we move little bit good. Similarly, we have middle school non-natives are 243. 104 doing good, 139 are 1, 2, 3, 4 grade level behind. So we have to work on those who are behind non-native, 139 and 76 natives. Similarly, in Red Creek, we have 112 Native American students, 13 are doing good. 95 doing 1, 2, 3 grade level behind. So slight improvement comparative the fall testing. Similarly, in Red Creek, we have 336 non-native, everybody else. 120 are doing good, very good. And 207 are still 1, 2, 3 grade level behind. So I just wanted to emphasize on this topic. As you folks know, Ho Chunk Nation has hired 3 tutors, Francesca Bird, Aaron Clerk, and Marcy, and 2 more is coming to help them. And Ho Chunk government is paying them $80,000 to help students. Similarly, they are paying me $80,000 to go work in a Toma school district, those who are behind over there. So I'm working in a Toma school district. So similarly, Ho Chunk folks are doing very good to hire more and more tutors. I requested in a special board meeting, I need 20 tutors, 10 mathematics, 10 English, so we can help 207 non-Native American who are behind in elementary, and similarly in a middle school, 139 are also behind in a middle school as well, non-Native. So I'm still working on it, how to get that $5 million. That much money we need to hire 20 tutors. Ho Chunk have hired. I am the eyewitness. You can see my badge. I just came from work. And they are paying a tutor $80,000. That's a lot of money for a tutor. It means the situation is that serious. So I just wanted to share with you folks the importance of education. Thanks.
Was there any questions on the data that you looked at?
No, I noticed on here that almost without exception that our grade levels are improving across the board. That's encouraging to see. I did see that we've had some decreasing or increasing rates of chronic absenteeism.
Do you want to go to that?
Which is with the loss of our attendance specialists, and it is going to be a further challenge. And I'm assuming we're still having problems with Skyward communicating correctly for the high school.
Yes. Yep.
It's and it's really troubling when it's kindergarten and first grade are 2 of the bigger ones, because that just sets your trajectory for the next 14 years.
If I could take just a second to talk a little bit about truancy. I mentioned it at one of our other meetings, and I was going to do it during the district admin report, but since you brought up attendance here, I think it might be appropriate. After a long time of conversation with the Sheriff's Department and Corporation Council, Jackson County Sheriff's Department is going to support a simple truancy citation being written out for students at the middle school and high school. So simple truancy is very different than habitual truancy, right? I just want to be very clear. But their interest in working on simple truancy is very much appreciated, and they said that in the county statutes there's also an opportunity for contributing to the truancy of a minor, that they said they want to see how it goes first with the simple truancy at the secondary level, and see if they could move in a little bit to some of the elementary parents who simply won't bring their kids into school. So the way the simple truancy citations are going to work at the high school, we need to put together a lot of communication for our middle school and high school students and our parents. But again, I'm guessing that you have heard of the students that attend school but then dodge class all day. They hide in various places in the building. When a staff member walks alongside them and says, "You've got to get to class, it's time to get to class," "No, I'm not gonna, you can't make me," all of this back and forth. The Sheriff's Department will allow us to document that whole situation. They will issue a simple truancy ticket, and the fine is like $62 or $50. but that's just the fine part. There's also court costs and processing, so it will end up being over $250 per student. We are not trying to adjudicate all of our youth. We are not trying to rack up fines. What we are doing is trying to increase accountability. When the student simply walks out the door with a staff member walking right behind them and they don't care, and we call the parent and the parent says, yup, we just need some teeth somewhere. So our hope is that we will be able to work with the sheriff's department to write the ticket. And because we are not trying to adjudicate the youth, we are not trying to clog up the court system, we will have after school and Saturday school that the students can come to, and they can work off that ticket. And Corporation Counsel said that if they do that when they first issue the citation, they will date the court date for however long we agree. We still have to work out the details. Like, let's just say it's a month from now. If the student does the Saturday school or after school during that month, they will void the citation, and the student avoids court, avoids the fine, avoids all of it. I know that some people talk about the school to prison pipeline. I understand all of that, but we are at a point that somebody has to be willing to hold feet to the fire, and we just really have been unable to get any of that leverage. So I'm super appreciative of Sheriff Waldera. He's been a fantastic partner, and we met with Sam Bach-Hansen from Corporation Counsel, and he really supports it and thinks that we'll be able to make it happen as soon as third trimester this year. I believe when we start holding kids accountable once they're in the building, that is going to lead to a lot more compliance everywhere, right? This idea of I get to do what I want when I want carries forth beyond that. So we said that the student would get a discipline write-up for defiance because an adult told them to go to class and they refused to go, and they would get the simple truancy citation. So I'm really excited about that, and know that once we get this process in place, they're very interested in looking at the adult contributing to the truancy of a minor.
What is the difference between the basic and the habitual then?
So simple truancy is really just, right now it's an act, it's a consequence that you did. Habitual truancy is missing. The statutory definition is part or all of 5 days per semester. So that takes time, and in our county, habitual truancy gets reported to Jackson County Health and Human Services, and then a social worker takes over. The school has to fill out a whole packet after having met with the parent to ask if there's any barriers that prevent the kid from coming to school. Have we tried to make accommodations or modifications? And it goes to Health and Human Services. Then they get assigned a caseworker, and the caseworker builds a relationship with that student and family, and that can take 4 to 8 weeks. And if that doesn't work, it's now another month before they get in front of the judge. So kids that we filed truancy on in spring, their court date is July or August. And then once the new school year starts, the slate is clean because they get a new opportunity to miss 5 or more days of school. So it's just so incredibly slow and bogged down. What we were asking for was an immediate consequence. You make this action, you walk out that door, when an adult told you to go to class, there's an immediate consequence for it. That's what we're hoping for.
Oh.
We have 2 judges. They are that busy in Jackson County. We hardly have any crime.
So I'm going to ignore that and move on. We don't get to refer things to the judge. In Jackson County, we refer habitual truancy to Health and Human Services. They determine what goes to the judge and what doesn't. So we don't refer right to the judge. We refer to Health and Human Services. These citations that will be written, if the family does not work off the citation, right? If the student doesn't come to after school or Saturday school, then those citations will go before the judges, and they are supportive of this action. Any other questions? And it kind of took a segue off of this, but I'm really excited to try the simple truancy and see what it can do.
Good idea.
Yeah, I know you've been working on that for quite a while. I didn't see you listed out of school suspension.
Yeah.
I was curious.
OSS. There you go. So those are lumped together, all of the incidents, and then the bottom is, if you did the math, they don't add up because some of the incidents were more than one day. So this is the total number of days that students have been uninvited to attend school, 222, and those are the incidents. You can see.
Do we have this for previous years, or do you have gut
We
feel?
can run it. We can run it. I think if you ask the principals, they would say we're probably very close in line with where we have been. Except I would say the physical aggression has been really high at middle school and high school this year compared to previous years. So definitely more physical aggression at the secondary level than we've had in, gosh, probably 7-8 years. If you remember in the beginning of the school year, I shared with you that there had been 5 fights. All of them were initiated by students new to our district. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Great.
Right, next is 7.2, student success. I'm assuming this is included.
So I want to talk to you, or I get to talk to you a little bit about a process we've been talking about at the middle school, high school, really throughout the district, called Focus on Instruction. So the slides you're going to see have been presented to all of our high school staff, and some of these selected slides to middle school teachers. And so on the next slide, what it really focuses on is a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And so when we're talking about a guaranteed curriculum, something that's guaranteed, that means any student in our school is going to get access to those assessments, standards, activities within the curriculum. And if it's viable, that means it's not just theoretical, right? Like we are actually able to get this done within the time allotted on that school calendar that we just looked at a moment ago. And all of this is in response to what we're looking at with our student data. This is the work that we're engaging in for student achievement improvement. And so what you'll see up above then is that what we know is that the number one way that we can impact student achievement is through our teachers, our people, we've talked about that a great deal. And then the second thing that we can really look at is that do we have a guaranteed and viable curriculum? And so engaging in the work of ensuring that that happens is our task. And so this just talks about things like specificity and structure and ways of supporting the teacher and making decisions, while at the same time supporting autonomy within the classroom. And then we have a picture of a roadmap. Is that fun with the Google slide or the Google or whatever those Apple things are, those little dots? It's like these are the check marks along the way. So, and then on the next slide, this is what the high school departments have been engaged in. So teachers have been having FaceTime with myself, Dr. Steverson, Ms. Penza, have all been working pretty intensively with groups of teachers from these departments, and you can see the calendar dates and where we've met and the process that we've engaged in. So this is a lot of hard work that's been done by the teaching staff at the high school. And all this is in response to that technical assistance network. I just wanted to, so basis of the work, probably should have made this a different slide, but is we were using these maps and these checklists that you see here. So this is from ACT, and these are the standards that you would need to, this little snapshot, and then there's a link to seeing the full, all of them. But this are the objectives and standards that you would need to master to get a 20 to 23 on the ACT in the area of reading. I'm sharing the 20 to 23 band because that's really when you're getting into both college and career readiness. So as we go through, like a lot of this is stuff that you would need any worker in our county to be able to know and do, along with it's really the supporting work that you need to be successful in college. So then on the next slide, this is just a framework and a visualization of that work for ensuring that we have a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So I want to again connect you. This is what we're doing to impact our student achievement data. So as we're talking about what is the work that we're doing, this is it. This is how we're trying to help and support every student in our district by ensuring that we've completed all these steps. So you see the blue bar, that's where we really look at our guarantees and make sure we have alignment with the ACT, what it is that we're doing and teaching. At the middle school level, we use Wisconsin Forward. We use those assessments because they help give us a guide. They're part of our roadmap, right? In that green area, this is just the different things that we do with standards to really deeply understand them. By the words unpacking, that just means that we look at the standard and really get into what are the skills in that standard that students need to be able to know and do. What does the standard mean and what does proficiency look like? Step 3 in that green area is we create a rubric. We put together all those things students need to be able to do and create a way of really being able to talk across teachers so they're able to say, yep, this is what it looks like when you master a standard. And so, and also what that helps us, we're putting this all in a shared drive, so then next year maybe we have a teacher that moves on, that retires, or isn't there teaching that math course. That work is ready and waiting for that next teacher coming in, so it helps with onboarding and ensuring that that curriculum is still guaranteed regardless of who is teaching that course. And it goes in, I'm not gonna read it all, but to you, the yellow piece is really where we're also working at in that whole idea of creating a scope and sequence, and then unit plans. So really knowing what's happening within a course of a unit and beginning with the end in mind, and knowing this is what rigor looks like, this is how I'm going to assess that rigor, and these are the steps for ensuring that students can get to and meet that rigor, because we believe that all students can get there. So it's less like the theory and the belief system behind it, and so that's what this framework then sets us up for thinking about how are we helping students below grade level, because we clearly articulated what grade level looks like. Grade level in and of itself, that's kind of this nebulous concept, but when I get really explicit, it means I can add these numbers or subtract, and I get really explicit about what it means, then I can look at the skills underneath that students may or may not have in order to increase their achievement. It also helps us really talk about rigor for kids that are advanced. So when this work is done, then I know, in order to go deeper into this standard or to expand that knowledge, these are the skills that my advanced students can know and do. So it helps us differentiate across the span of students that we see in our classrooms. And then I'm gonna not talk at you, because the rest of the presentation, if you can just kind of click fast, Jill, it just, there's some great quotes in here, there's some researchers like Marzano, which helps us understand this work. You have all seen some of this. We can keep going. This is just that unwrapping process I was talking about, how we identify those skills, we keep moving. What it looks like. This is from its ChatGPT AI, how we can use that to help us unpack standards, and then if we continue. So the biggest barrier is time, and we're trying to leverage AI to support this work.
And I just want to make a comment right after you made the comment about art. When we were trying to get them to make rubrics to show what proficiency looks like. We said, let's just try ChatGPT. And it was really interesting. Some of the teams of teachers were like, we don't let kids use that. I'm like, we're gonna let you try, let's do it. And I think that they were amazed at how specific, and I mean, ChatGPT is really smart, right? I just think that it was a great opportunity for them to use it in the safety of the group, and I am very confident that they will dabble a little bit more because of that, right?
Right.
They felt like it was a bad word at first, and then when we're like, well, we're gonna try it, and it really went well.
And we use it, and it can be a really cool tool, but we have to use it correctly.
Right.
We also just figured out how to use ChatGPT to put things into charts, so I was super excited about that. This is depth of knowledge, so this is one of the things that we look at to help us establish rigor and really understand what the standard's asking and to what degree. So we talk about that a lot. And then these are our steps for creating curriculum. So this is what I want you to take away is the level of detail and thought that's going into what we're doing to really understand our curriculum and school improvement. We can just kind of keep clicking, and that this is the work. So then there's course guides, and then all of these have corresponding templates that teachers work with. And just the idea that this is the curriculum, is all of these pieces. We purchase resources that support our curriculum, so I will be talking about some of those supports that we would like to put in place, but the curriculum is that process, identifying your standards, unpacking them, thinking about those assessments, selecting how it is that we're going to teach the work that needs to be done. And then we use resources to help us get there. Primary resource is the teacher, and this process is there, and then we also like purchase resources underneath all of that to support the work. These are just more examples of all the work that's been done that I felt like we'd like to see. Any questions?
So in that, the last slide, the one with all the links, thank you, with the science, I think, or the math one, I think is 239 pages, I read some of it. I think it stops at, I wanna say geometry or something, so like when we get to like AP Calc and classes like that, is there a nationwide advanced placement curriculum that we're aligning to? Okay.
It's really fantastic. Kim and I just took a tour and I'm learning more about the advanced placement curriculum and how it works.
It's extremely directive.
Yeah,
Like they're telling you what kids need to know.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
question.
I thought the little bit, I did not read every page of all those standards, but I thought that was, pretty, directive, I guess.
And it's
clear.
super interesting too, the way that standards are written differently, like how science is working and where the disciplinary literacy standards work. So like science has the cross-cutting and they have these SEPs, so they have standards that are content specific. Like there's a lot to this work, and our teachers know their stuff. Like there's a lot for them to know to be able to put it all together.
I think it's been really helpful that most of the teams have spent 2 half days here being facilitated by the 3 of us. And then today they had lots of time in their building because it was a professional development day. And so I was getting notes from some of them as they were editing documents and stuff that, they worked with us for 2 days and then they can work independently a little bit. I'm guessing you were probably buzzing around from team to team over in the building, but, and then we'll come back together and keep checking in on the work, right? Because that whole idea, if you know better, you do better. If they knew how to fix it themselves, they would have done that, right? And so just that group thinking process and facilitation has been really, really, really fun and interesting. So.
Nicole, just curious, when you met in your teams, just looking again at the math, it was in early January, I believe, that you met.
Yeah.
And we had just adopted a new math curriculum. Was that primarily tied into that? And
Yes.
is that new curriculum meeting all these goals?
So what was really the new curriculum, the way it's mapped out is really beautiful, and there's reports that you can run that really supports that work as I just talked through. So it's meeting the goals and that of like this type of work, like school improvement work. They are able to really, because of that assessment process and the curriculum, they're able to really see where students are at a different level than what they were able to do before in math, and it's also normed, so they get to see that kind of information in math versus where we were with our previous curriculum.
And it's still relatively new,
And it takes time,
to the math team.
implementation of all those pieces.
And not to be nitpicky, but that guaranteed and viable curriculum, that is the guaranteed standards that they've selected and unpacked and decided. What we purchased was a resource to use to teach that curriculum, because that resource that we bought, you could not start on page 1 and every day turn to the next page and expect to get that all done during a trimester. It's not viable then, because there's just way too much content to be able to master during the time that we have kids. So they made some decisions based off of these are the skills kids need to get a 20 to 23 on the ACT. These are the units that we're going to invest our time on more heavily, and then when there is more time available or kids are getting it, then we move on. So I just wanted to clear that's the resource. Their curriculum is the guaranteed standards and the alignment to that ACT. But they felt like that combination went really well with their new resource.
Really supportive.
Yeah.
Nicole, you used the word ChatGTP. What was the application of that? And who's paying for it? It's not
ChatGPT
free.
is free.
No, you have to pay a membership.
No, you don't.
If you
For the
really want,
Yeah, we're using the free version.
the free version. Okay,
Yeah.
no, I just wanted to be sure there is a membership. So, what is the application of ChatGTP? WASB sent us a magazine. They were condemning ChatGTP that this is bad and this and that is like another form of a cheating.
It's something we have to be aware of. Like, we have to be thinking about how our students are working with ChatGPT, because as a student, I could write me an essay in my voice about whatever topic, and it will do that. It's a powerful tool, it's coming, and so we need to learn about it and need to know how to work with it, like our students know they're using it. So what I would do as a teacher is I would say, help me write learning objectives based on this standard, or create a rubric based on this standard, and I would write that rubric in, or create a rubric with, and I put more and more detail in. And then it would give examples, and then I look at it and I say, this works, this doesn't, I take this, leave that, but it gives us a starting point, and it increases the efficiency with which we can work.
I like it.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, WASB just talking very negative about it, that many schools ban it in Washington, in Illinois, different states. They stop the frequency of this in the school system. So, but it could be useful, as Brett Dobb says, we were so against internet long time ago.
Right.
By the way, I did my research in the University of Minnesota on a macrofiche. Internet was in the primary stages back then in 1997. I just wanted to be sure about ChatGPT.
Yes.
It will be controlled by the teachers, right?
Yes, it is to be controlled,
Yes.
but considered thought through.
Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions? Thank you.
I guess we've got these in a weird number. You're up very soon, I guess, Nicole. Next is the Tiger soccer numbers.
So I just wanted to share with the board that boys varsity soccer has had, it started with club teams that paid for it, and then as it lived a little bit longer, then the school took that on as a school-sponsored sport. Right now, our numbers are waning. It is, you need at least 11 players to start a game, so they will not even let you start a game if you don't have a full field of 11 players. If somebody goes down, you can keep playing short, but if you don't have 11 to start, you have to forfeit the game. Right now, Andy Oscard, our activities director, tells us we do not have 11 players that have committed for fall. I would recommend that we would not agree to have a team if we have less than 15, because 11 is the minimum. Somebody gets hurt or somebody's ineligible, right? You need some people to be able to come and go. The board doesn't usually engage in, like, we have enough boys for 3 basketball teams, right? You don't normally engage in that, but I felt like this might get some community conversation, and so I wanted you to be aware of it. What I'm asking is for you to give Andy and I the authority to monitor our numbers, and if we don't get 15, that we would cancel the season, because right now in spring is when he's locking down. I mean, as far as like hiring the referees for next fall, that all happens this spring, and so we also co-op with Melrose Mindoro. We would have to let them know that it does not look like we have enough students for a team. Just for everyone's information, it is boys soccer in fall, and female athletes can play on the boys team, and we have had girls that have played on the boys team. That is how we've gotten up to the number of 11. Even counting the girls for the boys team, we are still not at 11. So I believe we will likely cancel it, which is unfortunate because we've got a coach who's super fired up and excited about it, but it's just not fair to the athletes or the athletes on the other teams when we are, right? So if you have 4 really great athletes that can't play soccer, maybe they would go out for another sport and help another team, right? If soccer is not a choice for them. So we would just like to make that decision this spring. Do you have any questions about that?
Especially if they're not going to get the chance to.
Right. And it's not fair to the other teams to build a schedule, and then the other teams are waiting for us to come, and then we say, just kidding, we can't come, we don't have enough players. It's not fair all the way around. So wanted you to know, and asking for your authority for Andy and I to monitor the number of students and determine the whether we have a team or not based off of those.
I move that we give you authority to move forward with decisions regarding our soccer team.
Second, further discussion.
No discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unfortunate we don't have the numbers, but. All right, and now Nicole is back. So I'd asked, because I had seen posted in the presentation, and I don't get my son is not old enough yet for me to get this stuff, and I thought there's a number of other board members that probably also don't get to see this, so.
Is it the video
Is that
or?
can we not watch the video? That'd be okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that. Is there a presentation as well?
And it's second.
I saw it already. There we go.
This one?
Yes.
All right.
Thank
good.
you for
Good.
not making me watch myself on
Watch
video.
But the video was helpful.
All right, well, I'm really glad you have it in here, access to watch that. And I am willing to answer any questions about the video as well. So just on the next slide, you may have seen this posting on Facebook. And that might have prompted some questions about what that means. So in the fall, and if we could skip this slide, I meant to put a different one there. That's okay, we'll go this one. Just to remind you, these are our tools that we have for communicating about student progress. And so when we put up that posting, it's kind of help remind parents, hey, everything's up to date. We tell our teaching staff everything should be up to date at this point, and to help facilitate conversations between parents and their children about like, yep, the grade book is up to date right now. I know that, so that it's sometimes like something that I hear in the community is the child will say, oh, it doesn't really mean that, it means this, but now the parent can point at the Facebook post and say, hey, it means this is where you are, and so that to try to support that
These kids will say, I turned it in, the teacher just hasn't graded it yet. When parents see that grades are up to date, everything that's turned in has been graded. So it takes away that student argument of,
right.
the teachers just didn't look at it yet.
And so then just Canvas, just a reminder, is where we're reporting like that everything has been completed, all of our practice, all of our assignments, that's where that takes place. And so when we look at the Canvas slides, we don't see a grade, we just see, if we go to the next slide, you just see that there's a check-off system. You might see that it's late, so that type of thing. And if we go to the next slide, a similar piece, something could be missing or late. And then on the Skyward slides, I put these 3 new slides in here. So what you're seeing, that box, if you watch the video, that's the drop-down box for display options. So if I'm a parent, I log into my Skyward account, I click on Family Access, and then I click on the gradebook for my student, and then this is what it looks like, or it might look different depending on that display options box. And so each one of these things, each one of those breakdowns makes the gradebook look differently. So if I just am showing subjects, it looks like this. So that's just showing how I'm doing in each course. Then on the next slide, if I click on that last box, if I click showing skills, now I can see how the student performed in the course and then how they performed on each standard. So right here, I'm still not getting into individual assignments. I can just see that conglomerate grade for the course and then for each standard. And then if I go to the next slide, now, and that's display options, here I've clicked that third one and I can see how they're doing on each event. The events are assignments.
So just to be clear, in the course they're getting an A, right?
Yep.
And the 4s are the scores on each event or assessment, or
Yeah.
the 4s?
So you see where it's blue, where it says
Yes.
expression performed,
Yes.
that's the standard. And then
Okay.
where it's white, that is the event or the
Gotcha.
assignment.
Okay.
And then on the next one, it's blue. So now I know that's a standard, or, and then on the next one, those are all those events that were graded. And then there's other things there's all sorts of stuff to click on. You can click on like that little book, and it gives you some more information. It gives you information about when things were due, that type of thing. And then like on that previous slide too, or if we go back, so you can look at that. On that display options at the top, you can see how they're doing try 2, how it's try 2 up there on the top. You can make try 1, try 2, and try 3 show up. You can make try 1, try 2 show up. So you might have different looking grade books depending on what you clicked on that. So that's one of the fun things about Skyward. And it remembers where you last clicked. So that it changes. And so then for the rest of this piece, just a reminder, so when you saw those 4s and 3s and 2, what those all mean. So a 4 means something, it's not just that something that we're averaging together. A 4 means they can independently and consistently do it versus approaching that proficiency. And then there's some more detail in there about what each one of those numbers mean. And then on the next slide, Just that we are, on that report card, I didn't go over it explicitly, but there's also these citizenship grades for the middle school and the high school. They're slightly different rubrics, and it talks, and so each student is getting an often, a sometimes, or a rarely in these 3 areas. And honestly, like, as a parent or as someone, if you're looking at helping a student, I would really look at these. And if I'm seeing that my student is rarely responsible, that's really telling me something about what's happening with that student. Then the next slide's the high school rubric. Very similar, they just have the 2 and they're more dealt out. And this is what I meant to put up earlier. So that, remember at the beginning of the presentation where we had the Facebook post, you'll see that come out upcoming in March and in April. And so they're set to be, those posts are set to come out on all those dates.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but extra and co-curricular eligibility is determined during each one of these grade checks, not just at the final score. And so that is something that each school makes their own choices. Sometimes people wait until a final report card is given, and then students would be ineligible.
It's not at every grade check, it's halfway through the trimester.
Perfect, thank you.
So we do a halfway and then the end of the trimester.
So 6 times throughout the year, a student could earn eligibility or not, just so everyone understands that. That also gives them the opportunity, if they are ineligible, they can then work with those classes, and once they're passing again, then they can earn their eligibility back. But that is something that each school decides. There's not one way WIA tells you to do it. We decided we would like more accountability for our athletes to be passing as opposed to anything less than.
Just, these are just what the parent access looks like, just a little more information on visual. Just some hints and tricks about this, kind of what I talked about earlier, like looking at the different pieces to help put the puzzle together, what's happening in school. Are there any other questions?
Just to recap, a parent would go to Canvas, and that's how they can tell if the assignments and the practice work is being done. And then they go to Skyward, and they can look at the scores that the student is earning on the assessments that are being turned in. We wish one tool would give us all that information, but the electronic platforms have not figured that out yet.
Nick, are you adept at using this and checking those? And you're the only one that has this too.
A little bit. My wife does more of it than I do, but she's the drill sergeant, you know.
But it is useful.
Yeah, it can be a little challenging, but it's useful.
I look at it like, what do you mean that's late? What's going on?
We just get Tiger tickets in 4K, so.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right. Put it in the pocket. All right. Next, we're on the 8 series monthly expenditures. As always, in your packet. Questions on that? Otherwise, looking for approval.
I move that we accept the monthly expenditures.
I will second that. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the financial statements and auditor's report.
Yeah, I should apologize ahead of time. You guys got a lot of numbers and a lot of technical reports this month from the financial area. I wanted to share the financial statements. The auditors completed those and submitted them to the DPI in December. The Cliff Note version, instead of reading all 80 pages of technical financial statements, we had a good audit. It was great. We have no audit findings or issues. One of the things, if you look at the audit report, you actually can read in the very first few pages, it talks about the management discussion and analysis. And that kind of gives you a good idea. It gives anybody investing in our bonds or when we're going out to the market for that, kind of gives a quick glimpse of what challenges the district might have, what kinds of things we've done to overcome those challenges, and what we're looking at for the future as well. So that's there. We did spend a little bit into our fund balance for Fund 10 and for Fund 50, both intentional. We bought a school bus last year, so that dipped us into that Fund 10 balance. And then Fund 50, we were put on notice when we had our audit. We have it's not called an audit from the state, but intentionally for the nutrition services, that we can only keep 3 months of operating expenses in our fund balance for Fund 50. And so we needed to start spending down some of our fund balance. We couldn't keep all that we had there. So we had to come up with a plan to spend those things down. We bought a lot of equipment that needed to be replaced, and so that was very helpful, and we'll have to continue to do that this next year as well. If you looked at the other piece that would have been helpful to you is the shorter few pages from the auditors. It's called the required audit communications to the board. Again, just a quick summary of whether they worked well with management when they came to do the audit, if we disagreed on things, if there were any material misstatements or anything like that, and there were not any of those things. They list all the journal entries that we did during the audit. Some of those are proposed by the district and some of those are by the auditors. So we get together on those and agree that yes, these need to be done still for the audit. And the reason for that is a lot of times we don't have all the invoices in, we don't have certain reports in, we're waiting for this or that. So we might, depending on the timing of when the audit is, we might still have to do those kinds of things after they're here and after they're started. And once they've started the audit, we have to document every single change that we make to our trial balances. One of the recommendations that they did have in the required communication to the board was to continue collecting on our negative food service balances. So try to collect those that we can, but then also set aside an allowance to essentially write those off, write off those debts that, you know, the students are long gone, they've graduated, whatever it might be, that we don't think that they're going to be a collectible debt. We need to figure out how to start writing those off more quickly.
So that's just taking a bad debt allowance? That's,
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what happened, talking about the food, what happened with the angel fund that was created for that sole purpose?
Yep, so we still have the angel funds, we still have some angel funds, not enough to take care of this debt of negative funds. Negative balances that we have on nutrition service accounts right now. So there's not enough there for that. And we've also kind of taken the stance that we've been using those angel funds right now for active kids, right? So if kids are, and they haven't needed those this year because of the free lunches and free breakfast, so.
And so just to be clear, she had a lot of words there, right? The bad debt in Fund 50 cannot be paid for with funds from Fund 50. They have to be paid for out of our general fund. So even if Fund 50 has extra money that we need to spend down, you cannot use food service funds to pay off food service bad debt. So that means it has to come out of our Fund 10, meaning we allocate dollars to that we could allocate towards a teacher, right? So it makes that more challenging. The other thing with the angel funds, remember that all meals are free this year. That bad debt contains people who've not had a kid in our school for 10 years. It's hard to take angel funds and apply it to that when we first need to decide whether we're taking them to collections or whether we're just going to write it off because we're not going to be able to collect that debt. We tend to use the angel funds for seniors that are graduating this year, that the funds so that they can participate in the graduation ceremony. So we tend to spend those funds on active students as opposed to families who've moved away, who still owe us $600. They don't even live here anymore, right? We've chosen to not use the angel funds for families like that.
Maybe those kids who are truant can help pay off their debt by doing some things around for the schools. I mean, hey.
Yeah, we'll see.
Work it off.
That's right. So, just wanted to explain the angel funds. Yeah. We do have some, but we're not using it for meals this year because all the meals are free.
Right.
And I do think that makes it harder to collect some of that debt because the families are like, well, my kid's still eating anyway. Yeah. Where we get more people to engage in a payment plan is if they're secondary student, we say, sorry, you're in the hole, you aren't able to get a full meal today, you can get salad from the salad bar. Then the family's a little more motivated to start a payment plan with us. But since that's not the case this year, we haven't collected a lot.
I don't have anything else to mention on the audit report, but if anybody had any questions.
Yeah, I have. The small audit report you have.
Yep.
Page number 4, paragraph number 3, last line. They appreciated you. I love it. They are thankful to you and your staff for cooperation.
Yes.
The management wrote to you. They are good people. Those who admire our people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Gold
So,
star.
Jill, I love how they did this, and our program does not give us the ability to do this. For like when you're doing your monthly report for us.
Absolutely. We can print reports however
I think this
we'd like.
layout was awesome.
What page is that?
Oh, you're gonna have my glasses on. 76 and 77, 8, and 9. Might be more, but my pages are all messed up.
Okay.
I think that's. But I just it seemed to be very self-explanatory. You're not trying to figure out what account that is.
So in the past, we've had a special board meeting where Jill has come and just shown the board the different financial reports and the layouts that are available, and the board as a group decides what they would like to see each month. So I feel like.
Yep. Actually, Jeanette, we used to, so on page 77 where it talks about regular instruction, vocational, I used to give reports like that, and then
a different
board said they would like them based on by building or by department or whatever, how you're getting them now. So I can print them any way we'd like.
It's how my brain works. It's the old way or whatever. I don't know.
Yep.
And could you please place it on the big board, 8.5?
We're not.
We're not there?
We're not there yet.
Okay.
So I'm just looking for approval of the audit reports by the board, unless there's other questions.
I make a motion to accept it.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Now we're up to the issuance of the bond, 8.3.
You are on the money.
We got a few in a row.
We're on the money. So these, so we received the final pricing summaries and bids on our notes for the pool renovation, I guess, HVAC renovation and plumbing pieces of the pool. And Baird helped manage that for us and gave me this quick little summary. The amount, their general obligation promissory notes, they're not bonds because we're not going out for that 20-year. So they're actually notes. So that's why we were able to have local banks, banks in the region bid on these as well. The amount's going to be that $999,995, staying underneath that $1 million exemption that the board has, that the district has. The settlement date would be March 14th, so next month. Maturities are from 2025 through 2034. Our first interest payment wouldn't be until next March. The first call date, which means that we could actually say we want to refinance or something, isn't until March 1st, 2029. The all-inclusive cost is 4.93%. And what that means is the winning bid was actually 4.46% for the interest cost, but then this includes the other costs of service, Baird's costs, Quarles and Brady, who does all the documents for us and make sure we have all our Ts crossed and Is dotted. So all those costs are included in there, so that would actually make the rate 4.93%. And the purchaser is actually Webster Bank. This is just a quick view of the 10-year notes that we will pay off. And again, we'll be making these payments each year through energy savings costs by doing the project that we're doing and moving some of the cost from Fund 10 to Fund 50 for those things that are considered part of the nutrition services department. So the ovens, the freezers, the coolers, all those kinds of things. Incidentally, we started that work Friday. They had shut the power down in all of the buildings, and they've started to install those devices by Data Wrangler, so we can start capturing that data. That's not set up by any means, but that piece has been started.
Which will also help with spending down Fund 50.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Some.
Yes. So that's that. Summary of bids. I shared that in the packet as well. As you can see, a lot of people did not even bid. We had a couple local banks that bid, but just calculating what the interest cost would be to go with those local banks, it would cost the district another $50,000 to $100,000 just to entertain those. So Baird definitely recommended going with Webster, and all of the resolutions and documents have been incorporated to include that.
Disappointing to see we don't have the 1.73% response issue word.
Right. So this was, the resolution was included in the packet as well. What we'd be looking for is approval by the board to approve the resolution authorizing the sale of those notes.
I will move to authorize the sale of the note.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 8.4, budget revisions.
Okay, we've been talking, so we talked about 22-23, right? Audited financial statements. Now we're going to talk about this year, 23-24. We typically do some budget revisions about this time of year, just to kind of true up all the grants that were approved after the start of the school year, after the board set the initial budget in October. So we wanted to get those in our Skyward budget and into WISE grants as part of the DPI program, where we do our grant claims and budgeting in there as well. So I gave you the Fund 10 detail of what those grants were, how much they were. Those are all included in this notice. So we had to put them in the correct revenue sources where the money is coming from, whether it's state or federal sources, or intermediate sources, I should say, or federal sources. You can see the revenues match the expenditures by $747,000. We're adding to the budget for all of those grants. And then we also had to do a little bit in Fund 27, which was our IDEA. We received a preschool grant, and we also had some carryover for our IDEA funds as well. So those are the budget revisions in summary form for 23-24. Is there any questions about any of those?
And that needs to get posted in the paper again once those
Right.
are made. So because you're moving the large categories of funds, that means that it needs to be published in the newspaper again.
Yep. The notice that's on this page would actually be published. So we would be looking for approval on the budget revisions for 23-24.
Move that we accept the budget revisions for 23-24.
I will second that. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Now we're up to 8.5 budget development.
Shoot. All right, so we've also been talking administratively, and the board has approved some pieces of the 24-25 budget with the bus bids and our capital maintenance projects. But administratively, we've been talking a lot about the 24-25 budget. What we start out with is by comparing the calculation of the revenue limit for 24-25. I have to estimate it. I don't know all the factors yet. We don't know how many students we're going to have in September, for example, for sure. And that's part of the calculation. Using the information that we have available to us, we make that calculation and compare it to our revenue limit from this year. And then that gives us an idea of how many new dollars we have, which is the first time ever that we have new dollars. Not ever, but for several years we haven't had new dollars after that first calculation, or very few anyways. And then we look at other revenue adjustments that we might need to make, and so those are listed in the top half of the document as well. And you'll see I have 3 options. We were looking at what if it was a 4% salary pool, and again, 4% doesn't mean everybody gets 4%. It means that we have a pool of dollars, and from that we would honor those increases on the salary schedule for the teachers that we already have set, the steps, things like that. Or there's a 3% pool in option B or a 2% pool in option C. So we just kind of keep those on our radar by moving down and looking at how much would it cost to increase salaries and fringe based on whichever option it might be. So a 4% salary pool increase in the fringe benefits for like WRS and Social Security, Medicare would be about $640,000. If it was 3%, it'd be $480,000. And if it was 2%, it'd be $320,000. So as you can see, that takes a big chunk out of that $499,000, or actually $577,000 of new money that we had in the Fund 10 budget. And then we also have to look at health insurance. That's our next biggest cost, and we're using a 9% increase there. Based on that's a cap that we have for 24-25. It could be less than that, but I'm using the worst case scenario here to forecast that. A 9% increase in the health insurance for the board share of the benefits for our staff would be about $284,000. So you can kind of see then what happens. We're certainly in a deficit here in option A at $347,000. Option B is a little bit better, $186 deficit, and option C is in the red by $26,000. But then we also have to look at our retirees and factor in not only their retirement stipend that they're going to receive from the district, but also what does it look like with their salary and benefit package leaving the district, and we are hiring a newer, maybe less experienced teacher in their place. There's some savings that might be seen there as well. So those are all factored into that next line, and that's a fluid line that's going to change as people come and go in the district. And then the last line is our building budget allocation change, and I gave you the detail for that in the packet as well. We're looking at adding $11,000 to the budget to fund those building budget allocations. So this is all based on enrollment in their buildings and just moving them forward from one year to the next, and using the per pupil budget allocations. At the elementary, it's $222 per student. At the middle school, it's $246 per student, and that is primarily due to that they have tech ed and some co-curricular activities that the elementaries don't have. And then the high school, $349 per student, and again, because they have more activities and science classes and CTE classes and things of that nature. So the math down below shows what each building, what would happen compared to, I'm sorry, these titles are wrong right here, I just noticed. It should say change from 23-24, so the high school would see another $12,000,
Middle school would go down a little bit because their enrollment's actually going down. Red Creek would go up by about $2,600 and 4th Street by $111. And that total is at $11,649. So we're looking at, so a couple things. I just wanted to give you that basic overview of the budget and see where we started at, and this will continue to change over the next couple of months as we continue our conversations about reprioritizing some of our positions that we have. Looking at enrollments in the different grade levels. Will we have some attrition that maybe we won't need to replace a position? But those are all things we're talking about. But for tonight, the main action item that we're looking for is to approve the building budget center allocations so that the principals can start working with their staff and building those budgets for 24-25. Shelley, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
The only thing I was going to add in regards to this is that this is all Fund 10. This is not any of our ESSER funded positions. So that ESSER funds, again, is going away by next fall. This is all Fund 10 work, not the ESSER funded positions. Eventually, for those of you new on the board, you will get a list like this with many more columns that will hopefully land with a balanced number on the bottom, is what our goal is. We have been watching CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and see where it is at for salaries. We try to stay competitive, and we lose support staff every day to Quick Trips and other places that can pay a lot more per hour than we do. So we look at the whole year CPI, Consumer Price Index, and that is leaning towards 4, which is why we put that on there as an option. As you can see, that is a much larger deficit than if we went 2, and yet we know that if we don't keep our salaries competitive, our staff will make other choices. Remember how many teachers we have that drive through other districts to get to us, and how much we need them to want to continue to do that. And so we watch those salaries very closely. Our CISA is great at doing a massive spreadsheet for all of the positions. So we'll get one with all the secretarial wages in our region, all of the aides, all of the mechanics, the bus drivers, all of that, and then the teacher pay scales as well. And we're nowhere near the top. We try very hard to not be at the bottom. We need, I think the more rural you are, the more you have to live towards the middle to upper of that, because people could, we have a couple carpools from Eau Claire and a couple carpools that come here from La Crosse, and gas prices and the time, right? They can make more money staying home, and we need them to want to come here. So that salary piece is a big deal.
Just looking at the school district, school building budget centers.
Yeah.
You know, when it says the actual enrollment and estimated enrollment, you know, they're both over 500. I thought we were below 500.
At the high school?
Yeah.
The 8th grade class going in is large, and
we're 499 right now.
499. So you're right. We are under 500.
We just got a new student today, so 500 maybe if I look at the numbers.
I heard under 500, so 499.
And we know the 8th grade class is large going up.
So one question on the health insurance, that cap is 9%. Remind me, how long are we under that cap? Is the next year the last year, and then we get reevaluated? Is that correct?
As a co-op, and just for everyone's information, we are part of a health insurance co-op that includes, I think it's up to 29 other districts. It's massive, and it will go up for bid. We're hoping that by end of March we find out what our rate is. But last year they got Jill and I both convinced that we were going to be under the cap, because they said, boy, the experience is looking really good. The experience is looking really good. And was the cap 7% last year?
No, it's 9.
Oh, it was 9 again. And we kept saying, let's budget for 6%, and it came in at 9 or 8.
8 something.
So we're not even going to listen to them until it's real. We're not even going to listen to them until we know for sure.
Maybe we'll go down, you know.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Can I,
So,
ask,
yep.
can I just ask for clarification? When we are looking at salary, so like the 4%, does each building administration then determines, or do you still determine, we determine?
Sure.
Like the percentage that teachers will get versus what aides will get?
Sure, so we get whatever amount the board finally or ultimately decides, and let's just say it's 4%. We would take every teacher's salary in the district and multiply it by 4%, and then we have a compensation schedule. We would apply that 4% onto each one of those dollar amounts. That pool of dollars would be spread out amongst all of those teachers. The teachers are all on a step, so nobody sits and says, oh, Susie Smith that teaches kindergarten, she's gonna get 5% and Henrietta is gonna get a 2%. Everybody is on a schedule, and so that 4% pool of dollars is divided amongst that. Same with support staff, so in the support staff pool, that would be secretaries, aides, custodians, nutrition services, and bus drivers are all part of that, and that's where we really lean on our CISA comparisons. It has happened in the past that when we look at comparisons, our nutrition services was right in line with 75th percentile there, but our bus drivers had slipped below. So our bus drivers got more than 4%, nutrition services got slightly less than secretary, right? So the percentage creates a pool of dollars for that group of employees, and then we make recommendations as to how it is spaced out amongst each of those employee groups.
So is it so like your aides, building aides, are they on the same type of scale?
So our aides used to have more steps based off of their years of experience. Quite a few years ago now, there was a lot of conversation amongst the aides that we had such a high turnover rate, and they felt that once an aide is doing the work, they're doing all of the work, and so there's really not a seniority piece included. Okay. So there's a starting wage, and once, you have to help me, if you're a substitute, if you come in as a substitute, it's $1 less, but once you are a full-time aide, you all make the same thing as a full-time aide.
Okay, so that's not based on years of service.
No.
Okay.
No.
I just.
Yep.
Thanks for that.
Sure. It was like that years ago, and it got collapsed. And
I was gonna say, because I felt like that when I.
Yep.
Okay.
So once that percentage is set, then all the rest of that work comes into place, because the percentage of salary creates that pool of dollars, and then we look at all of our comparisons to determine which of those categories are going to get the investment, or larger or smaller investment.
Thank you.
Yep. Budget season is pretty intensified for sure.
Fun. I think it's the word fun.
Fun? No, I didn't say that. I didn't say it. I didn't mean to say it. There was no fun in there.
No, there's a lot of very ugly numbers.
There's some tough decisions to make, especially with those ESSER funds. There's some really tough decisions to make. So.
Will we be seeing, with the ESSER funds, will we be seeing teachers let go this year?
Some of those positions are going to have to be reduced because they're not going to fit in the fund 10. And so we've had a retirement from within that pool. So, right, that's an easy one.
That's
so,
easy.
Right. So that's what you will see.
Okay.
So we've had 6 retirements. Right?
Not all of them are replaceable by ESSER funded positions, but I think it's 6. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Give or take.
Yep. So we do need your action on the budget center allocations so that the buildings can start building their budgets.
So I move to approve the building budget.
Just a minute. I would like to talk about 8.5. It was that one. I was waiting for my turn patiently. Nicole, Jill Collins. I like your name. You remind me Phil Collins, the air supply guy, Power of Love. So the actual enrollment is 1,671, the first column. Third column is 1,676, 24 to 25, year 24 to 25. So don't we each student pay $12,000 for a whole year? That will make a $21 million. If we multiply by 12,000 by 1,676, it will make a $21 million. The instructional money has to be between teachers and student. I'm just wondering, is it okay if we could see a big pie, instructional money and other monies, or like pie? Because this is very challenging for me from last 8 months. Every penny is recorded here. Jill, this one, 300, 400 pages, every penny recorded.
Yeah, those are all the checks that were cut, right? Those are all the bills that were paid.
Even a one penny is recorded. Nothing is going here and there. But it is very challenging for me, I don't know about other folks, to read every page and comprehend all those numbers. I was wondering to see a whole pie, instructional money, which is very clear, $21 million, and the rest, how it works out.
Let me correct you, it's not $21 million, because you can't take that multiplied by 12,000, that's not our revenue limit, because we have to live within that revenue limit right now, right? So that dollar amount is $11,000.
11? Okay.
Right, yeah.
I was just checking.
Yeah.
The DPI was talking about 12,000. Okay, 11,000.
The other reports that you receive in your packet each month do talk about the budget and what's spent each month, and it shows you a better breakdown. There's no graphs and things like that, but there's certainly other reports in your packet. What you were referring to, those are the checks that are cut. Those are all the bills that were paid, who they were paid to, how much, all of that, a lot of detail.
Penny,
right? Every penny paid out, right? Exactly. But there are other reports showing what revenues have come in, it kind of gives a summary of those bills that were paid, and what went out in payroll as well. So I mean, that's certainly. I can do charts and graphs too, but I guess the board needs to tell me what it is.
Yeah, the pie is easy for me to comprehend, as well as the people of Jackson County could comprehend.
That's published in our annual meeting booklet each year, what percentage of our budget is spent in each way. Our annual meeting booklet has all those graphs.
Yeah. And what is instructional money? What is that?
Well, so the big pieces, I do have it right here. So the big pieces of the budget, instruction, support services, can you see these expenditure appropriations?
Yes.
That's the big summary level that the board approves the budget at. So instruction includes all the salary and benefits, supplies, everything needed for direct instruction of pupils.
That is $24 million, right?
It is
total
instruction is $10.2 million right here.
Okay, the total is 25,221,566, right?
That's the Fund 10 total budget.
Total budget.
It's $25 million.
And that is instructional money.
No.
So not all of it.
Not all of it?
When money comes in, it's not instruction or non-instruction. When money comes in, it is just money that comes into our Fund 10. We and the board determine what is going to instruction, what is going to support services, and what is going to the non-program transactions function. So when it comes in, it's not instructional money. When it goes out, we can tell you what percentage is spent on instruction and other things. But when it comes in, it is just revenue.
And it says that instructional $10 million.
Expenditures. We are spending that
expenditure
much.
of instruction function is 10 million.
Correct.
And then supportive service is, what is supportive service? Like a superintendent, principal, vice principal.
Correct.
Teachers.
Transportation, utilities.
Not teachers. Teachers is instructional. So you said.
Oh yeah. Teachers are instructional.
But our aides, secretaries, bus drivers, the fuel, the utilities, the
Not aides.
What?
Not aides. They're instructional.
Okay, sorry. But you-
utilities, transportation,
Superintendent,
building and grounds.
Yep,
vice principal, principal,
Yep.
they all are
social
supportive
workers,
services.
guidance counselors.
Guidance counselors, and non-transaction.
Non-program transactions
What is
is,
that?
well, what that is part of that is we transfer to Fund 27, which is our special education fund. We have to transfer from Fund 10 any portion that's not covered by aid money from the state in Fund 27 for special education. So a piece of that is for special education. A bigger chunk of that is for open enrollment out. So open enrollment out dollars that we send to other school districts come out of that area as well.
So is it possible, like, instructional money was 10 million, can we make it 15 million? So I can get 5 million and hire 20 teachers, the 20 tutors, and then here, as you see, we have a 500 student clearly behind. I need a staff. So is it possible we make a 10 million to 15 million and reduce other things?
Well, we can't.
We can't?
That's a revenue limit override. You'd have to go to a referendum to go higher than our revenue limit to make that happen.
I would also remind you that we have after-school tutors in every single building and they're woefully underutilized. We are currently capable of paying tutors for after-school programming, and students and families are not taking advantage of it at nearly a high enough rate.
It says on the digital, our digital sign, it clearly says, anybody can read it, any parents can read it, bring your child, we'll help you. We are trying the best.
I simply was saying, without that $5 million, we have tutors available.
The tutor should be like, in my point of view, like the way the Ho Chung folks have hired from morning to 3 o'clock, 3:30.
We'll see the impact of those tutors and maybe that will be the roadmap for us, right?
Maybe. I used to be one of them 2008.
Yeah.
And I still have those reports. Hardly 2, 3 or 5 students are behind. Everybody pass. Not with the flying colors, but they pass. Could we make it 15 million? Come on. It's not in our hand. It is not in our hands.
No,
No. Good luck.
we have a revenue limit. We are limited what we can tax by state statute.
I have no idea of rule of law, of statutes. Someday we could bring our attorney here, sit down and explain us.
Are you asking for the board to take money from support services and put it into instruction? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, something like that.
So then you're asking us to cut 5 million out of support services.
We would like not the support service, which is exceptionally important. Our core agenda, the core function of the board is this. We will not bargain on any student, but we have 500 are behind. So this is our like a major objective. Therefore, we all board members are here. Maybe we could have a special meeting, talk about the rule of law. I'm not attorney. Talk about
So we are
rule of
telling
law.
you we cannot tax anymore. There's no more money that can come in through taxes. Cannot happen. If a majority of this board wants to direct the admin to try to cut $5 million from supportive services to move to instructional services, a majority of the board is going to have to move and make that. We don't need an attorney to tell us that. Jill is incredibly well versed when it comes to the budget cycle and what we are allowed to do and what we are not allowed to do.
Thank you for helping.
All right, so I was moving to approve the building budget centers, is that the
Allocation.
center allocation?
You move that.
I moved.
I second.
All right, thank you. Further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, we have last month's meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Motion and seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? District admin report?
Sure, there was 2 questions that were asked by an individual board member that I thought would be helpful information for everyone. So our student success conferences, we just had our second round of conferences, and somebody asked what percentage of participation we get. At the elementary level, it runs between 85 and 90%. However, our staff do a fantastic job. The expectation at the elementary level is that if a parent does not come in, that staff member actually has to document their attempts, and they have to make at least 2 more attempts to communicate with that person, not just leave a message, but have two-way communication. And through that, they get about 90% participation, which is great. The secondary student success conferences, it's not as easy because the kids aren't in that homeroom, right? The parents kind of flit in and out. At this last round of secondary conferences, there were 68 families that signed in. So 68 families, many of them have more than one student, nowhere near the 90%. However, if we also consider all of that information that Nicole just shared with us that is available for parents at the secondary level, those parents can see daily work happening or not happening and all of that information. So there's a lot more access to your child's progress that way as well. So not excusing the conferences, but just sharing that.
Is there any way, sorry to interrupt, but that can be monitored, that you can see who has signed in to look, or is that just private?
I'm uncertain if we could check, we can know who has an account and stuff, but I don't know if there's metrics that could tell us how many times somebody logs in. We can check that out though. Yeah, I'm unaware. Skyward, I don't think you can get a count, but we can check. During the school board candidate forum, several people talked about a gender support policy. I just wanted to clarify for the board that there isn't a policy. There was a communication plan that was approved. And then the next question that was asked by a board member was how many of those are currently in place? And our middle school has 0, and there are currently 3 at the high school. So just an FYI for you, there is not a policy. There's a gender support communication plan that has been approved by the board. Okay, I told you about the simple truancy because I was so excited I couldn't wait till this report. The author event, wanted to tell you how fantastic our visit with Angeline Boley was. I was so nervous that she would come all this way and we wouldn't have that many people in the theater, and there were hundreds of people in the theater, and it was really interesting. I was so lucky that I got to go to dinner with her beforehand, and she is just absolutely wonderful. And she's written hand thank you cards to the students that came up and interacted with her, as well as our food service who made a food basket. Like, she just is an incredibly thoughtful and kind person. And we all learned that there's going to be 4 books in this series, so there's 2 more books to come, which we're really excited about. So wanted to share that. I emailed out the summary report of the Our People survey recently. The Our People committee has looked at all the narrative comments, as well as the building leaders all have their narrative comments. Our family feedback survey will be going out yet this week, and so we ask families a whole host of questions. Though we use a lot of those questions as measurements towards our strategic plan, our community engagement pillar, we say that families feel connected and proud to be a part of the school district of Black River Falls. We ask that question on the survey so that we can gauge how many families how we're making progress on that. The last couple times we've done the family survey, we've gotten really low response rate. People just don't take the time to click through. Staff, I was able to bribe them with like ice cream sundaes for the building that had the highest participation. I don't know how to encourage parents unless I say, the school, your kids will get ice cream or something. I don't know, but excuse me. If you have ideas how to encourage more parents to give us feedback, we'd really appreciate it. Because we ask all those questions, then when you see like 40 parents answered, it doesn't feel like you're getting a lot of feedback. Excuse me. And my only other point was a reminder that tomorrow is the primary election, and everybody needs to remember to go out and vote. That's all that I had.
For WASB and other, there was Mary Jo submitted a write-up, it was in their packet. Any other conferences or workshops to report? And any other connection opportunities to report?
I had the opportunity to serve lunch Valentine's Day over at Forest Street Elementary, and it was a great time.
They get a lot of families, don't they?
Yeah, they opened that multi-purpose room, and it was full.
Awesome.
Kudos to all the staff there at Forest Street.
I heard it was pretty impressive. I couldn't be there.
And with Dr. Seuss's birthday coming up, I am quite confident there'll be opportunities to read in schools if you have the availability. I'm sure that invite is open.
And the last thing I have was also I wanted to remind everyone about the election tomorrow. So just as a reminder how this works, everyone gets 3 votes. The top 3 vote getters, is that the right term? Vote getters advance to what did I say?
You said
3
yeah.
3 votes. Everyone gets 3 votes. The top 6 vote getters advance to the general election, which is April 2nd. And reminder that town of New Lyme votes in Manchester, town of Springfield votes in Albion, and town of Franklin votes in Adams. And thanks to Marty for making sure I got all of that correct. So, next is future agenda item identification.
I have a few things. The high school is working on a privilege system for students for next fall that I would love for you all to hear an update on. We will talk about the simple truancy and what kind of communications we're preparing for students and families, and the public comment procedures will be on there as Mary Jo will be back. And then there's always a closed session in March as well. So what items do you have that you'd like on?
We'll need to review where we're at with the scoreboard again.
Oh yeah, scoreboard update.
Hopefully we'll raise a bunch of money by then.
Meeting adjourned?
No.
Not yet?
Anything else?
I just, on the attendance, because I've been thinking about this, for the high school, because I've had a lot of parents complaining that their kids have been marked absent when their child has been there, and then the parent getting phone calls, the robocall, late in the day when it's too late to do anything about it. So is there a
Can we
issue?
ask these guys to share the attendance procedures?
Yeah, you talked about parents, so a lot of times we communicate back with parents that your kid is in the building, they're not in class, right? So that's still unexcused. If they're 10 minutes or more out of that class, they're marked unexcused. And so that's where sometimes the confusion comes a little bit. Yeah, your kid's there, they're just not in class. As far as I know, there's 2 calls that come out. There's one in the morning, then one in the afternoon. Is that correct? And so hopefully if they get that morning call, that would be enough time for them to get hold of their student and kind of figure out what's going on. The one that comes at the end of the day is a little bit too late, but it's still us trying to clearly communicate with parents that your kid potentially had missed, a period or 2. But we try to communicate that. We try to check anytime we get those calls. We check out the attendance, make sure everything looks good, and then we communicate with teachers to make sure that they weren't in class, and we do our best to try to clear that up.
So then with Francesca leaving, who will take the responsibility for marking attendance for kids in the
She
class?
doesn't do that daily work. She doesn't do that.
So each teacher takes attendance in their
Okay.
hours, right? And so sometimes those phone calls come because a student wasn't there right away, right? And so a teacher marked them out excused, and they get busy teaching, and then they don't go back in and change that attendance. And so we've talked to our staff about how it's really important for that data to get changed in there so that the parents aren't getting those phone calls, because we want parents to trust the information that we're sending out to them. So we've talked a lot about that. So it's the teachers that take it, and then Kayla Kern is our attendance secretary, and so she goes through and gets all those phone calls or that information back. And he's usually the one that's communicating with parents when they're concerned about theirs and their child, and then they check in with Nate. And then we communicate with those teachers to check on those things. But all of the people will still be there. If you're talking about the truancy and the steps that Francesca takes, Nate's gonna take that over. And we feel like we have a really good system at the high school to make it seamless that we're still checking up on those students that are struggling to get to school.
What Francesca spent most of her time on was the students that met habitual truancy.
Okay.
When they had 5 unexcused absence, she would be the one to invite the parent in and have the conversation about it, and she would fill out the forms and talk with human services. So she didn't do the daily checking on kids, she did the monitoring of the unexcused absences is what she did. But you're absolutely right, those calls sometimes come in, and the other solution would be to make sure their kid was in class on time. And then there's very little chance that they're gonna accidentally get a phone call, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right. Anything further for future? Otherwise, I will move to adjourn.
I'll
I
second
second
that.
it.
Further discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.